Hi everyone. In this video, I'll show you block number 11 in our Jelly Roll Block of the Month challenge. If you're not already participating and you'd like to join in, check the description right under this video. You'll find a link to my sewing group called Stitch It with CRICUT, and that's where you'll find everything you need to participate. As always, we'll have a PDF available. It will be in the group files when I share this block. Let's take a look at what you're going to need. We'll start with the darkest color. These are all 2.5 wide. So you'll need 2 at 6.5 long, 2 at 4.5 long, and 4 at 2.5 by 2.5. So that's your darkest color. In a medium color, you'll need 6 pieces of 2.5 by 2.5. And in your light color, or white, I'm using white, so I'll refer to it as white in this video. So in white, I have 4 at 6.5 long and 4 at 2.5 long. So these are the cuts you're going to need. And if you're using yardage, everything is laid out in the Design Space file. I'll share the link as always. So let's go ahead and lay out this block. Put our darks and our mediums. So we're going to take a 6.5 dark, then we'll take a 2.5 dark, a 2.5 medium, and another 2.5 dark. And then we'll take a 4.5 dark. Let me put that down. A 4.5 dark and a 2.5 medium. So that's the left side top. That's how you lay it out. And you're going to repeat this for the right side bottom. But we'll go right side top. Take a 6.5 white, a 2.5 white, a 2.5 medium, and another 2.5 white, and then another 6.5 white. So you're going to repeat the same thing but in reverse for the bottom. A 6.5 white, a 2.5 white, 2.5 medium, 2.5 white, and your last 6.5 white. And then we repeat this, but in the opposite direction. So a 4.5 dark, a 2.5 medium. So you see this design coming this way. And then we have a 2.5 dark, a 2.5 medium, and a 2.5 dark, and your 6.5 dark. So that's how you lay out the whole block. And to start sewing, we're going to start by putting these pieces together. So these pieces that are in smaller sections, you're going to sew those together first. So I'm going to start with this top one. I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam, and I'm going to press my fabric towards the darker fabric. So this one, 1/4 inch seam, and press towards the darker fabric. So I'll sew these, press them, and I'll be right back. And I'm back with these. I've pressed towards my darker fabric. So I will lay this out back the way it goes. That's how it goes. And I'll continue by sewing these center pieces, and repeating what I did here for this bottom square. There we go. I'll get these two done and I'll be back for the last two. Here's our two strips. Press towards the darker fabric. And we'll put these back where they go. And the last two, I'll be repeating what I did for this one. 1/4 inch seams and press towards the darker fabric. And here we are. Okay, so we're done with those smaller pieces. So now we're going to assemble these strips into 4 separate squares before we put the whole thing together. So you notice that you have these points. This is where you're going at this stage in assembling the block. This is where you're going to be very careful to nest. So this part, this is simple enough. It's just a 1/4 inch seam. Straight down the edge, you have no nesting. But when you attach this piece, you want to nest. So that's why I emphasized pressing towards the darker fabric, because you want your seams to nest, one to the right, one to the left. You want to line them up really nice and tight and straight. And I even like to do a pin at this point to make sure I don't move it while I'm carrying things over to my sewing machine. So I'll do this one first and then I'll attach the left side of it and I'll be back to show to you assembled. There we go. You can see the top left corner assembled. So this is going to look exactly the same thing. You want to make sure that you nest these 2 corners. On the white you have no nesting. Where you have this center of medium color, you have no nesting. So it's just straight seams, one on each side. So I'll get this one done and I'll continue with these and then we'll move on to the next step. And here we are. We have all 4 squares done. And you can see that I've done a really good job of nesting my points. I wanted to make sure those were nice and straight so everything lines up really well. So all we're going to do now is sew our 2 top pieces together and our 2 bottom pieces together. So we'll just take this over. There's no nesting to do at this point. We're just going to sew 1/4 inch seams nice and straight. Press one towards the left and the bottom one towards the right so that they're all prepared for nesting when we do the final seam. So I'll get that done and I'll be back again. And here we have our top and bottom rows sewed together. So all we have left to do is our final seam, and you want to be sure that you're nesting on every corner so that you get a really nice finish. Start with your center, and that's why I asked you to press one towards the left and one's towards the right. So the center would be super easy to nest. We'll get that done nice and straight. And then we'll make sure that we're nesting the rest of our seams. I strongly advise putting a pin in it at this point because you have a lot of nesting all the way along. Make sure they all line up. That feels good. And that's nice. That's one side. And then I'll just check my nesting on this side. I have all these threads to trim away. And there we go. So I just have 1/4 inch seam to sew straight along the center. Press it open nice and flat, and this block will be done. And we're done. Here's our finished block. I love this one. It's really cute. I don't know what it's called. On the PDF, I called it a square dance block because that seemed to fit to me. But if anybody knows what the original name of this block is, please let me know. I'd love to know. So all I need to do is clean up my edges, clean up my loose threads, press there again, and it'll be finished, all done. So it's not a difficult block. It involves a lot of nesting, but we've done a lot of nesting in the past 10 months or 11 months. So you should find it easy to do. I hope you're going to enjoy it. And once again, if you're not already participating in the Block of the Month challenge with us, there is a link below this video in the description where you can join my Facebook group and you can participate. Everything you need is there. So I hope you enjoyed this one, and thank you for watching.